What's going on? It's your boy Adam, and just kicking it in my lounge chair, my crappy Amazon lounge chair in the tiny house. Um, it, I'm just putting a little intro together. A few weeks ago, it was in March, middle of March. I did an interview with this guy, Truth Tiger. You may have seen a video from a number of months ago when I was in Jamestown and homeless. I did an interview live stream on YouTube from the Jamestown Public Library in the soundproof booth. And he had reached out to me a few weeks ago, or a number like in the beginning of March, I guess. Wanted to do a little catch up. I don't remember how the conversation started or how, you know, he reached out to me. We talked for a minute. I think I comment on some of his videos from time to time, and that's probably how it got started. He reached out to me, hey, how you doing? This and that and the other thing. Probably watched a video or two of mine, because he knew about the tiny house that I had moved into, and so he just wanted to kind of catch up and do another live stream collab, and wanted to just kind of ask some questions. He got into asking me a little bit more about what it was like in prison and some things like that. So that's what you're about to watch is the replay of that live stream. Anyway, I just want to give a quick intro to this video. And, check out Truth Tiger. He spends a lot of time talking about the way people behave and treat each other and act towards each other. And I think that's like the main gist of his channel. He talks a lot about human nature and a lot of how people just behave in our modern society. And so a lot of his videos show up in my stream quite often, and I'm pretty, if I see a title that catches my eye, I bookmark it and I add it to the playlist of the month. And as I'm sitting down to do work and things like that, he's got a number of videos that I bookmark, and I might watch them right away. Sometimes I'll just be in the mood because I'm working on something and it's a good thing to have on in the background. And, I comment on a lot of his videos, and he comes over and comments on a lot of mine. And like I said, we've talked to each other via email, and, he's helped me out a little bit, and I'm trying to do some things for him when I get caught up on my work. I'm working on a little project for him. But it was good to get in touch with him and have a little bit of a discussion. Be prepared. There were some issues. I'm having some issues with T-Mobile, their home internet. I think that's the culprit. The live my side of the live stream cut out multiple times and froze. These live streams are buggy. I watch a lot of people's live streams on YouTube, and they all have hiccups and they all have problems, and it's hard to know who to blame. It really is. So I'm going to leave it at that. And also check out the links below, because I'll have a link to Truth Tiger's YouTube channel and a link to this specific video on his channel. I just wanted to bring it over and add it to the collection over here, because I do plan on, as I do more interviews and talk to more people, I want to have those in a certain place where you can come watch them all. And with that, I'm going to say peace out. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. We are live. I'm here with special guest Adam Bees, and Adam's had a lot to overcome. He's in the tiny house now. Yeah, Adam, you want to tell us a little bit about this tiny house you got going?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many of your watchers. I know that we were kind of around the same level of subscribers last time we talked. Like, you were kind of hitting that 1,000 subscriber mark at the same time as me, but I was homeless living in Jamestown, New York, after having done a 2-year bid in federal prison for basically for mean tweets.
Yep.
And we could talk about that.
Hmm.
I mean, you go over to my channel and hear the whole story, or you can just Google my name because it's out there. It's everywhere. It was all over
Yep.
the national news. And so I spent, picking up where we left off the last time we talked. One of my best friends lives in Houston, Texas, and he kept telling me, even before I came home from prison, he's like, if you get into a jam, you can come live here. But it wasn't like I could just pack up and leave because I'm on federal probation for 3 years as of April of last year. So I'm almost up to 1 year finished. But I had to wait for them to approve it. And so when I first became homeless, they didn't want to approve it. They wanted me to stay up in New York. And then they were talking about forcing me to go back to Pittsburgh, but they were just kind of bouncing me around, and that while I'm homeless for months.
Yeah.
And I was having a really hard time finding a job in Jamestown, New York. The town is a depressed area of it is the poorest county in New York State, and so the jobs are hard to find. And I'd get hired for a job, they'd do a criminal background check and say, never mind, you're not hired. And so finally, probation finally said, okay, we'll let you go live with your friend down in Houston. And some things the good Lord will make things happen out of nowhere sometimes when you need to. The way I was able to move down to Houston when they told me you can move to Houston, I'm like, how am I going to get there? I don't know. Me and my friend were talking. We're like, how's this going to happen? He's like, they were going, everybody's in a jam financially. So it was like going to be a challenge. And I would sit at this park and do these daily videos on YouTube in Jamestown. And several times a week, this guy would show up walking his dog. The a morning right after they told me I could move to Houston, I'm walking across the park, getting ready to shoot a video. This guy's dog walks up and jumps on me and wants to be petted and all that. The owner comes over. He's like, "I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean she's a friendly dog." I'm like, "We're cool, we're cool." And we get into this conversation. And he asks me, "What do I do? What are you doing here with your videos?" And we get into this long conversation. He's a business owner in Jamestown. He knows everybody. And he asks me, he's like, would you be interested in doing some work for me? Some website. I'm a website and multimedia designer, software designer. He asked me, he's like, I need a couple of websites built. I need this, that, and the other thing. My restaurant needs some work, etc. He goes, here,
Wow. Yeah. Real quick, Adam. Some people are saying that you're frozen up. Looks like you're frozen up right now. People are saying we can't hear you. So, um, yeah, maybe you should try rejoining. I think we're not getting you here. But yeah, real quick, folks. Adam's just telling his story. It looks like you're still frozen up. Some people in the chat are saying we can't hear you. Why don't maybe try signing out and rejoining? Maybe try that. Okay. All right, guys. Yeah, so we're gonna have Adam sign back in so we can hear him. But essentially, he was telling us about his journey he was going through. You know, he had to go to jail for 20 months just for basically a bad tweet. So huge freedom of speech. You know, BS he's having to deal with. And oh, well, looks like you're back, Adam.
All right. I don't know if that's any better.
Yeah, I think you're good. I think you're good to go. I think we missed some of your story, but I'll kind of summarize it. So you were in Jamestown, New York. You're homeless after going to prison for a very BS reason, huge freedom of speech violation. You know, not a good reason to go to jail at all. Very unfortunate. And it looks like you had an angel come by when you're in Jamestown, New York, a business owner. He came by and helped you out. Really amazing work from the good Lord there to get you some money to be able to get to Houston. And then you stayed with a friend in Houston. Now you're in the tiny house. Really amazing journey. Yeah. So why don't you tell us about this tiny house? You know, from no house to a tiny house. That's amazing. That's a huge comeback.
All right. So yeah, when I got to Houston, the probation, I have freelance work coming at me for website design and digital marketing projects, but they wanted me to go get a real job. And they were I wouldn't say they were threatening me or anything like that, but like, I don't know how to put it, but I had to go out and find some sort of like paycheck. And so I got a job at a bakery making like $10 an hour, just something so that I can say, here I go, I got a job. And, but I was living with my best friend for about 4.5 months. It was closing in on 5 months. And I don't know what parts you heard and didn't hear, but you know how it is when, even if you're a house guest of somebody, even if you've been best friends since you were kids, you know, that time to move on. But I didn't
Yeah.
have a car yet. I have 2 bicycles. I'm an avid cyclist, so I can get around, but it's still a struggle. And so I needed the area of Houston that I live in right now, that my friend lives in, is like the richest area of the city. And so I had to find an affordable place because I'm not really on my feet yet. I'm kind of there, but I'm not quite. I was able to save up a little bit of money while I was at my friend's house, but my choice was you either get a car or you get a place to live. You can't afford both right now. And then it was like, well, go get a place to live and then figure it out. And so, and he helped me. You know, I had a little bit of help in terms of moving stuff around, and you know, it
Yeah.
wasn't like I'm all alone. So the places that were available here, I think Houston is
Yeah.
pretty affordable.
Yeah.
Um, there are, but if you're trying to get it under $1,000 a month, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
And so the way I'm looking at it, there's a lot of places that are very poor condition that
Yeah.
are available. I don't think there's a lot of laws here like there are in places in other states. And
Yeah.
I think it has to do with you've got a lot of illegal immigrants living
Yep.
in places, and they're not going to complain to the government when something's not right. And
Yep.
so, you know, because they don't want to get deported. So
Yeah.
a lot of things are allowed to fly. Like I think in Houston, I think in Texas, you could put a cardboard box in your backyard, run an extension cord to it, call it a place to rent.
Yeah.
I got an apartment available. Come and look at it, and that would
Yeah.
be all right. People would be cool with that. So the stuff that was available, there was a cabin up on a lake, and it looked legit, and it was small. It was like a little shotgun style house, and
Yeah.
had a really nice kitchen appliances in it, and it looked like it would do the job. And so I tried to set up a time to go look at it, and while I was trying to coordinate this with the property owner or the property manager, because the guy kept saying, well, the tenant that's currently living there won't let anybody in to look at the place, but we can meet outside the place and you can see it from the outside, and we can. And I'm like, that's pretty much the sign of a scam operation right there.
Yeah.
Like if nobody, they're not going to take you in and let you see the inside of the place. You know, it wasn't one of those like too good to be true ads where you see like a crystal chandelier and marble
Yeah.
countertop, spiral staircase, and then
But
it
it's
says
but essentially it
500 a month.
wasn't the right deal. There was some fugazi
No,
stuff on with it, so you had to
I looked.
get the tiny house.
Yeah, so I looked at another place. It was an 80-foot long, double wide trailer,
Yeah,
big, a lot of space inside, but the place was falling apart and it was like
gotcha.
scary bad to the
Yeah,
point where I'm like, if they turn on the electricity, the place will probably catch on fire. But
gotcha.
that's okay because when they turn on the water, all the leaky pipes will put out the fire.
Yeah.
But it
So
was bad.
so definitely adventures in trying to find the right spot. Kind of Goldilocks
Yeah,
had to
so I
find the
went
right
through this
wet bowl
process.
porridge. Yeah, real quick, I do want to circle back to. I want to talk about your time in jail in federal prison. Like,
I
what was that like? I mean, were people cool with you in there? Was it a hard time in there? Like, do you have any stories from there you want to tell?
I have tons. I mean, we could
Yeah,
talk for hours about
yeah,
that. So where do I begin? If you want to know the general alert of what happened, you can
yeah,
just type my name into Google.
yeah,
There's no shortage of material about what happened. You're
yeah,
gonna get it all from the side of the media
yeah,
and there's a lot of BS in there, and there's a lot of things that came out in the courtroom that don't match up with what they were saying I did.
yeah,
But um, basically, you can say whatever you want. You have freedom of speech, but you can't threaten people.
yeah,
And my posts, they charged me with a crime for 7 different social media posts, and they felt like only one of them would stick.
yeah,
But when the government charges you, they try to charge you with as much stuff as they can, and then it's
yeah.
your job to get the judge to dismiss it or a jury to say not guilty or whatever. They you get railroaded.
Yeah, it's tough
And
to
so
beat. It's
one
tough to beat the
post, it
Fed.
was literally one post, and it was something to, I don't know the exact words, but it was something to the effect of, if you feds show up at my
Yeah,
house, I'll be waiting for you. I'll take you all out.
yeah.
And then they showed up at my house because of that with a tank and drove the tank right into my house.
Dang.
And then
Yeah.
there's more.
Jesus.
But the jail experience, I was in 4 different places.
Yeah.
I was in a place called the Butler County Prison, which is a
Yeah.
county jail in Pennsylvania, but it was like a maximum security prison.
Dang.
I spent the first 3 or 4 days in the place being tortured by the FBI. They locked me in a bare room with nothing, just a bare floor,
Dang.
no toilet, no bed. They gave me like they had me stripped down to no clothes. They put this like blanket thing
Holy
on me,
shit.
threw me in this room, and left me there for 4 days until a judge told them to let me out.
Dang. Were they feeding
They
you in
weren't
there?
bringing me to,
Yeah.
huh?
Were they feeding you
They
in
didn't
there?
bring me to my arraignment. And so the judge threatened to, like, I'm going to hold whoever in contempt of the, if you don't bring them to the
Adam, real
arraignment.
quick, I want to ask you: when you were in that room, were they giving you like food and water when you were locked in that
They
room for
throw a
4 days?
paper bag with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in it
Yeah.
at you, like a few
Dang.
times a day. That was it.
That's
You
crazy,
get
man.
a carton of milk and a PB&J, or
Dang.
maybe a ham or a bologna sandwich with a slice of cheese or something like that. And that's it.
Holy crap.
I spent like 4 days locked in that room, unable to. If I had to go take a dump,
Yep.
they would show up and like chain me up like Hannibal Lecter, like
Holy crap.
sort of strapping me to a furniture dolly and wheel me to a jail cell with a toilet, and then stand there
Jeez.
while I took a crap,
Holy
screaming
shit.
and yelling at me to hurry up.
Damn.
And
I mean, that sounds like a really stressful way to have to sit down and use it. Let me tell you, I like peace and quiet.
yeah,
I'm sitting on the porch on the throw.
yeah, believe it. But this jail was horrible. I spent 14 months in that jail. I never saw the sun once. Never saw outside. Didn't know what a tree looked
Dang.
like. When they
So
take you to and from court, they take
so
you
no,
in a
no
blacked out
yard
van with no
time.
windows.
So yeah, so no yard time. Did you have any cellmates, or
No.
were they just like putting you in solitary?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it got easier and easier as time
yeah,
went by. They started off pretty harsh, but then they gave me a jail job working in the kitchen and put me on a certain cell block where all the workers were, and it was a little more laid back
yeah,
in terms of getting along with the other. When they put me on a regular cell block,
yeah,
my thing was all over national news. It was all over the TV. When I walked onto a cell block where there were people out playing cards and stuff,
yeah.
the first thing that came out of their mouth was, "Oh my God, it's him! Look!" And they pointed up in the air, and I looked up, and my mugshot was on the TV screen when I walked into the pod,
Dang.
to the cell block. So everybody there was like, "Oh, he's cool." Because if you go to
Nice.
jail and you're a middle-aged white guy who obviously was like some
Yeah.
sort of computer guy, oh, child molester, and then
Yeah.
you got to prove to all these people that.
Yeah. 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 Oh, looks like you froze up. You're back.
Okay, yeah, we're back. It's gonna do this probably.
It's all
I don't
good.
have any problems with my internet till you're trying to tell the truth, right?
Yep.
Um, so the people in that jail were really decent
Nice.
towards me because I'm a hero. Oh, he's the guy who threatened the FBI. The
Yeah.
first day I went in the breakfast line, they're like, "Here, man, you get an extra carton of milk. You're cool."
Nice.
And so, like, everybody generally left me. I didn't have too many problems there, other than the fact that it was a horrible place to be. They
Yeah.
had like a rec room that
Yep.
had like a window face that you could see the sky
Yeah.
out of the little window in this like gym, this triangular shaped gym with a basketball hoop or something. But it was all, I went 14 months. I didn't see the sun. When they take you to court, it's in a blacked out van with no windows. You can't see out of it. You
Dang.
get to court, they take you in an underground garage. You don't see outside.
Dang.
14 months. That's part of what they do. The
Yeah.
federal government tortures you to extract a confession out of you, if you will. And so basically, they're dangling this plea deal in front of you saying, if you sign here, we'll take you off to Club Fed and you can play pickleball all day and you can go to spin class and you can do all this stuff.
Yep.
And you'll get to go outside all day and go to a library and have more freedom than you have here in this crappy jail. And so that's how they get most. That they've got a 99% conviction rate when the FBI arrests somebody. You're not,
Gosh.
unless you're rich, you can buy your way out of it. But if you're just a regular dude, you're like
Well, yeah.
that whole innocent till proven guilty thing. You're guilty till you can prove that you're innocent. And
Yeah.
good luck doing that when you're locked in a cage and you have no access to lawyers and courts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
and they've got unlimited resources to prosecute you with.
yeah, it's obvious that they decided to railroad you. I mean, if you look at what you did, like 20 months, like holy gosh. And I want to call out Abby Oz. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. Just need to shout that out. That's awesome. Thank you for the $20. But yeah, that sounds like a very tough time. So how long were you just in isolation by yourself before they put you around the other inmates?
It was 4 days, I
Yep.
think, in that room, that empty
Yeah.
room with nothing in it. Then they put me in a cell by myself. There was a guy named Robert Bowers, famous
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh. He went on a killing spree and killed like 11 people in a synagogue
Holy crap.
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's a famous, like, he's well known. It's national news.
Yeah.
And they put me in a cell right next to him.
What?
And then I spent a few days there by myself in another cell, but it had a bed and a toilet and things. So it was a big upgrade for me. I'm moving up in the world.
Yeah.
But I looked out and like they would let this guy out to watch TV for an hour a day.
Dang.
While he got the death penalty, but while he was waiting, he spent 5 years in that jail, in that cell, waiting to go to court for the death penalty.
Dang.
And I was in the cell right next to him. I look out the window of my cell. I'm like, is that who I think it is? And then later on, I find out, yeah, they call him the Jew Killer. That was his nickname in there. All the guards and all the inmates, that's what they called him.
Holy crap. And you're kind of thinking, like, what am I doing next to this crazy guy? Like, I'm a
There's
normal
a little
guy,
bit of
software
synchronicity
developer.
there.
Yeah.
This is on the side story, but when he did that, they tried to blame, we're going to talk about free speech. They basically blamed the social media site Gab for him killing all those people, and they tried to shut down Gab.
Yeah.
They deplatformed. That's when they got deplatformed. Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab, was, the banks were canceling all his accounts. They were trying to shut down the platform. And I'm looking at this. I never heard of Gab before, but that's the guy before he went on his killing spree. He posted a bunch of stuff on Gab. He went on the killing spree, and then they blamed Gab for it. But there was a mass killing that was live streamed on Facebook, and they didn't try to shut down Facebook for it. It was that one in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But anyway, I ended up getting into contact with Andrew Torba, the CEO of Gab,
Yeah.
after that incident, because I was like, I never even heard of the platform before, but I didn't think that was fair. I ended up working for them for a while
Nice.
as a software developer, and doing like front end design and software development. And it was, like 8 months, 9 months worth of work that I did with them. And that's how I got involved. And that's how I had a platform, or that's how I had an account and a following and a platform on Gap.
Yeah.
And so I was basically, I went through a lot of crap. I was fired from a remote job because I was vaccine. I was angry about a bunch of stuff. And I went on a rant
Yeah.
the week that Donald Trump's house got raided. And I went too far and I said some pretty stupid things. And they came at me like hard. Now, ever since I've been out of prison, every day I see Democrats on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, social media, all over the place. They're threatening, we're going to kill Donald Trump. I
Yeah.
hate
Yeah.
Donald Trump. Let's kill Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They don't go to jail.
100%.
Very rarely do they go to jail. But they came hard at me.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is. And my experience in jail, I was in that Butler County prison.
Yep.
The next place they took me was a crazy place in Ohio, but I got to go outside for an hour a day.
Yeah.
It was a private prison. It was like, wow, like I watched so many people get stabbed and all kinds of stuff there. It was crazy. I mean, there's a lot of stories there. Then they took me to the detention center in Brooklyn, where P. Diddy is right now.
Really?
I was in the same building. I know all about that place.
Dude.
That was as bad as you would think. And there's tons of stories about how bad that place is. Then they took me to a federal prison in Danbury, Connecticut.
So take me back to Ohio. You said you were in a private prison in Ohio. You said you watched people get stabbed. You said that place was crazy. Yeah, talk about the private prison in Ohio a little bit.
All right. So it's owned by a company called Corrections Corporation of America. They run a number of private prisons across America. There's a lot of, even if the prison or the jails aren't privately owned, all of the industry surrounding prison and jails is all private industry, from the uniforms, the food, the clothes, like I said, the clothing, the everything else that's involved with running prisons is all a big, it's a big private industry. So they got to keep those beds full. Now this place in Ohio is so out of control. The best way to describe it would be, they did a raid. This was before I was there. They did a raid on the place where they had sheriffs and cops from all over the place swarm on this place, and they locked it down. They found something like 2,000 knives or something like that, shanks and knives. They found 900 cell phones. They found 2 guns.
Whoa!
Two guns.
Someone brought a gun.
2 inmates
in
had
jail?
guns.
Holy God!
Yeah, 2
that's
guns.
crazy. That's crazy. People like guns.
And I like the drugs and the hooch, like that was everywhere. That was like just out in the open. The guards that they hired, because it was a private jail, were like the TSA guards at the airport. They would literally hire like 18-year-old girls to be prison guards in a place full of killers.
Dude,
so the inmates ran that place.
So they got 18-year-old girls working as prison guards in there with a bunch of these dudes. Are those girls like getting pregnant and dating these guys? Like, what is happening there?
They were making some. Yeah, there were some whoring themselves out. That was for sure. Some of them were. I mean, how do you get a gun in a prison?
Yeah.
Right. Someone brought that in. So there were opportunities for some of these kids that they were hiring to. One cigarette in prison sells for $30.
Dang.
to
Okay.
one inmate to another, and they use
So
Cash App and other stuff like
hold on.
that
So are
to
these
do these
prison guards
transactions.
like are they driving around lifted trucks and Mercedes and Corvettes and stuff? Are these prison guards balling out with all the money they're making, bringing stuff in for prisoners?
I Some of them probably
Yeah.
are, but I don't think it's all of them. But most of these people that they were hiring to be guards had no business being in there, and they couldn't
Yeah.
control the place at all. It was a free for all. It was a free for all behind some barbed wire, and it was crazy. And so, yeah, fights would break out. Two gangs would start fighting with each other. I mean, I watched a guy try to run off the cell block holding his body while like body parts are falling out of him, and I'm
Oh.
like, is that on the floor? And like, and he's trying to hold parts in his body as he's running off the
Jesus.
block when the guards came and opened the door, and they locked the place down for like an hour and then let everybody back out to go
Dang.
play cards and stuff. Like,
So when
it
you're
was
in there,
crazy. It was
are
so
you
crazy.
watching your back and keeping to yourself and being like, I am like, because that sounds kind of scary, man. Like there's like people getting stabbed and
Yeah.
stuff. Like, yeah, like what are
No,
you
I
doing to like,
mean,
yeah, protect yourself, survive? Yeah,
it's not like you got to look around every corner. Like, it's not, people aren't necessarily gunning for you. It really
yeah,
boils down to, if you treat people with respect, they generally treat you with respect. Most of the real violent stuff comes from rival gangs and things
yeah,
like that. People already had a beef with some, or if you owe somebody money, like you get into it, you don't gamble. I didn't
yeah,
gamble. I didn't get into any of that crap. You start playing dominoes, you start
yeah,
playing cards with the wrong people, you get a prison debt, they're going to come after you for it one way or another.
yeah,
That's one way that people fight. Or if you just got stuff that people want, they'll come and take it from you. Or there,
yeah,
you gotta watch your back, but at the same time, it's not like everybody's out to get you,
yeah,
because there are people in there who have a chance to go home, so they're going to keep it on the low
yeah,
because they don't want to get a new charge for something and go through the whole thing again. They're looking at the future to go home. I think the people you got to watch out for the most are the ones who are like, they're in there for life.
yeah,
They're like, at that point they don't care. But
yeah,
they generally try to separate. The prisons usually have different blocks for different types of people, and so they try to keep the worst ones in one block, and they try to keep the ones that are more chill in another block. And so that works out. If you're one of the chill people, you'll generally be with a group of people that aren't crazy. um,
yeah,
and so, but that place in Ohio was the craziest, and the place in Brooklyn was really bad too. That place was inhumane, the way that they treat people. That's like at the level of like that DC gulag that you hear people talking about. And
yeah,
I mean, I have so many stories, I don't even know where to begin, because it was a 20-month long ride. The federal prison, once you get to that level, they put me in a low security prison in Danbury, Connecticut. It's the same place they sent Steve Bannon. And you're literally like, there's gyms, I went to spinning class.
dang,
There's a track, there's a big area outside with a quarter-mile long track to walk around. I could stay outside all day. They had a library full of books. You're in like a dorm room setting. There's no more cells. There weren't,
yeah,
and you have like private bathrooms that are like,
okay,
you could go to the bathroom in privacy. You can take a shower without, all the jails there by law, the showers have to be covered now. They can't just have a bunch of naked dudes standing around in like, I guess back
yeah,
in the Shawshank days, or what you see in those
yeah,
movies. You don't do that anymore because it's against the law.
yeah,
Um, so, but other than that, the Danbury, I was there for 4 months, and it was the that I could like let down my guard and just kind of relax a little
yeah,
bit and be like, I'm going to be home in 4 months. I'm going to get myself in shape. I lost 40 pounds because I just hit the gym every day, and I just focused on eyes on the prize. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to do the best I can I was going to church all the time. I was reading the word of God every
yeah,
day. I was getting deep with that. I was, like I said, getting in shape, spinning class, pickleball, stairmaster, like million other things. I was playing indoor soccer,
nice,
um, other stuff, but that's what they do.
yeah,
Um,
So,
They make your ride really difficult till you sign that plea deal. Then they're like, okay,
mm,
they dangle that carrot in front of you. If you sign here, you give us our guilty plea, then
I
we'll
see.
take you to a better place, and
So they're
we'll go
basically
from there.
torturing you in the really bad prisons. Then once you sign the plea deal, you say, "All right, I'm guilty, whatever." Then they sent you to Danbury to the nice spot. And yes, just for
Yeah,
a quick recap. So you started out first. They sent you to Pennsylvania. Then they sent you to Ohio. Then Brooklyn. Then Danbury. So four different prisons.
yeah,
Yes.
and they were all very different from each other. The first two were before I was sentenced, and then after I got
Oh.
sentenced, I went to Brooklyn and then Danbury.
So they
And
got you in all these jails before you're even being sentenced.
yeah, yeah, like I said, I mean, in most cases, they tell you you're innocent until you're
Right.
proven guilty, but you're sitting in jail for. They've got people sitting in that Butler County jail for 6 years waiting for their federal day in court. They'll
Damn.
let you sit there for 5 years in a jail. You're still innocent, but you're sitting there for 5, 6 years waiting for your day in a courtroom,
That sounds kind of
and they'll
twisted
just come
up.
up
It
with.
sounds like innocent until you're proven guilty. We gotta prove it. They're gonna say you're gonna sit in a jail until we prove it. That doesn't really make sense to me. Just saying that.
Yeah, and I mean, some people, like the guy who went and shot the 11 people and killed 11
Yeah,
people in the
that guy
synagogue. He sat
obviously.
in
That
jail.
yeah.
He spent 5, 6 years sitting in jail waiting for his day in court. We're not going to let him out in society and
Yeah.
walking around. Man, I mean, I
But
get it.
with that
It's
guy,
not
like,
like
what do you gotta wait 5 years for with that guy? He killed those people. He's obviously a bad
right.
guy. Like, come on, what do you want to wait? That's all the lawyers and all the
Yeah. Oh yeah.
legalism
It's
and
a legal game. They
right.
figure the lawyers. His lawyer looks at it like he's got the death penalty. We got to try and figure out how to get him life in prison instead of the death penalty. And
Let's see.
they're not working on that case for 5 years and that like all the 5 years of labor going in. No, they're working like an hour. They make a phone call here,
So in
fill out a
in his
document
case, they're trying to
there.
kick the can down the road because they
Yeah.
know
Oh,
he's a
very
really
much.
bad guy. He's gonna have some bad stuff happen to him. He's probably gonna get the death penalty. They want to stretch it out. Yeah. But I want to get off the topic of that
All
guy
right.
in particular. Let's talk about Brooklyn. What was the prison in Brooklyn like?
Corrupt and dirty. When you get there, that they take all your belongings, whatever you came in with, it's gone. They hand you a jumpsuit and one.
Oh shoot, you're frozen up again, Adam. So Adam, why don't you sign back in again? I'll read some chat. My brother almost died in county. Yeah, bad infection. We got a bunch of chats here. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at them, but I'll look at the chats for a little bit while Adam unfreezes. And yeah, prison's a very rough place, very corrupt place. And yeah, Adam's had a really rough ride, and the way he's overcame and the way he's just kept moving forward. It's extremely inspirational. I don't know how I would do in that situation, having to go to jail. And yeah, I'm just telling the folks about just how much
That's fine.
resilience and just fortitude and just like, dude, to overcome the things you've overcome, just like I don't know how you've done it just to move forward from prison to homelessness to just getting your life completely destroyed. So, I mean, just props to you just for having that fortitude to push forward, man. Like, holy gosh. But yeah, why don't you get back to Brooklyn for us, please?
All right. We'll
Yeah.
see how the stream goes.
Yep.
Yeah, I watch a lot of live streams. This happens all the time. So, let's see. Brooklyn, corrupt. That's the
Yeah.
number one thing. It's dirty, filthy. Like I said, you get there, they give you a jumpsuit, one pair of boxer shorts, and you're like, that's it, have at it. Because it's mostly, it serves two purposes. Brooklyn is, they move prisoners around the country like a FedEx package.
Mm.
So they're taking you to your destination jail. I They took me on a wild ride. I went
Yeah.
from Ohio to the Pittsburgh airport, flew to Oklahoma City, took an hour and a half bus ride to a jail north of spent one night in a holding cell, came back down to the airport in Oklahoma City, flew up to Mexico, New York, and then had to take a bus down to Brooklyn. And that's how I got to Brooklyn. And Brooklyn is like,
Ah, dang it, you froze up again. Shoot, it happens. Just when we're getting the juicy stuff, the good stuff. It's all good though. It's part of the adventure. It's part of the journey. We're getting this stuff in. But yeah, Adam, if you could maybe try signing back in for us. All right, I'm gonna see. Yeah, a lot of strength in Adam. Thanks for saying that, Raise. I'm just gonna look at the chats here. Boom. Yeah, Truth, you helped me, bro. Thank you. Yeah, we got a couple trolls in here, but got cool people in here too. And yeah, I'm really glad to, be helping people out with this stuff. These kind of videos help me out a lot. So you're back, Adam. Yeah, just when
we'll
you try
try
to talk
keep
about
trying.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess they don't want you to know about Brooklyn.
Yeah. But yeah, you were saying it's very corrupt over there, very dirty, very rough kind of place. You said in unsanitary conditions, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think they get away with it because it's I don't know if you heard, they transfer prisoners around the country like a FedEx package,
Yeah.
and that Brooklyn facility is like a main hub.
Mm.
And so I was only there for a month, and then they took me off to Danbury. And so but yeah, it was really bad, really filthy conditions. You're basically locked in a cell for 23 hours a day because they're understaffed. That's their reason that they tell you. And when you're out in the pod, half of the there's tables with stools. Most of the stools are missing because people ripped them off to turn them into whatever they. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I was there for a month. I've got 6 months worth of stories to tell about it. So it's um, P Diddy is there, the guy who ripped off the Bitcoin scam or whatever his name is. He's there.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can look this place up. There's New York City newspapers have stories about this place every single day. There's federal judges in New York City no longer will allow prisoners to be sent there because it's so inhumane. So there's federal judges in New York City that refuse to send suspects or people there.
Yeah. So were you ever threatened or in any scary situations or anything like that? Did you ever have to deal with any crazy stuff directed at you, or more you were just kind of seeing it happen around you?
More seeing it happen.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not what people are led to believe.
Yeah.
Most people just want to get home. Most people just want to get the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Who get into problems brought it on themselves. I'm not going to lie. But there was one incident in the kitchen. Like I said, I worked in the prison kitchen in Butler, PA for most of that 14 months. And one time an inmate started with, and we started shouting at each other, and a guard had to come break us up. And the guards liked me, so they pulled me off to the side and they took him to the hole. But I had been down there for a long time working in the kitchen, and this guy had only been down in the kitchen for a few days, and he was already starting shit with everybody in the kitchen. And so they took him away. They took him off. But that was the only time that I ever had real beef or an issue with somebody.
So for the most part, if you don't bother people, they don't bother you, pretty much.
Right. The only time now, if you're like a child molester and the people find out, you're going to have some serious problems.
I've heard that you can get that you can lose your life for that. And I mean, it's a pretty nasty thing. I get why people don't treat those people well, because that's not a good deal. But I can see
there is a hierarchy. Yeah. If you did something to kids, you're at the bottom of the stratus.
I've heard if you've done something to women too, that they'll you'll get the bad treatment from the boys.
You're one notch above child molester if you did something to a woman like that. Yeah.
But
Like
where you were at,
you'll
because
have
you
a
were on the
little bit at a
news,
time, but not much.
where you were at because you were on the news, they knew why you were in there. You had good credibility. People looked at you as like a stand-up guy, a legit guy. Like, yeah,
I mean, I shared a cell with a guy who killed. Here's something like I kind of go.
yeah,
I wasn't treated fairly. I got a 2-year sentence, of which I
yeah,
served 20 months
yeah,
for mean tweets. If we're gonna just be
yeah,
blunt,
yeah.
and the guy I shared a cell with a guy who got 14 months in jail for killing somebody.
What?
He was drunk. He was driving. He drank too much. He was
Yeah,
driving. He hit a guy on a bicycle, and the guy died.
yeah.
They were charging him with manslaughter and trying to give him 15 years in
Yeah.
prison for manslaughter, and he got a plea deal for 14 months in jail.
He did less
And
time
he
than
was a
you, and
really good
he did
guy. I mean,
manslaughter. Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah. And
That's
so
nuts.
he was, he was a really good guy. I hope someday I can actually like talk to him again someday. He was from Pittsburgh as well, world's biggest small town, and he really good guy. He was an engineer in the steel industry for
Yeah,
his whole career. He was at the end of his career. He was about 50 years old, a little bit older maybe. Made a mistake,
yeah,
and he feels I mean, he's broken. He is completely destroyed
yeah,
by what happened.
yeah,
If you look at the facts of the case, the guy on the bicycle wasn't doing himself any favors. He was riding on the wrong side of the road, dressed
yeah,
in black, wearing headphones, and had no lights or reflectors.
yeah,
It was middle of December. It was like at midnight. And
yeah,
so it was definitely a freak occurrence.
yeah,
But when it happened, the police showed up. They gave him a breath test. They made him go to the hospital and give a blood,
yeah.
and they charged him with manslaughter
Dang.
for the DUI.
Yeah,
And so it's all
that's
justice is all over the place. There's really no rhyme or reason. You could have two people on the same case, co-defendants with each other. One gets 20 years in prison. The other one gets community service for the same crime.
well, it's kind of
Like
just
there's
like
just no,
seems like it's almost
yeah,
random. If you get unlucky, you're gonna hit bad.
right,
Yeah,
right.
dang. So I think you mentioned you had a girlfriend or fiance who was kind of looking after you a little bit while you were in there, maybe giving you some money on the books. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
had I was on the way down to like, ring shopping when all this happened.
yeah,
And she stood by my side for the whole time I was in prison.
yeah,
And she even went, she salvaged some of my stuff. I lost pretty much everything I owned. My house was gone, everything, my vehicles. She saved some of my possessions and stored them for me while I was in prison. She
yeah,
put money on my books. If I went a day without talking to her on the phone or through the messaging system they have, she'd freak out and
yeah.
like panic and be like, I need to know you're okay.
Mm.
She went and got us an apartment so that when I got out, we could start our life together again, all of that.
Yeah, yeah,
And then as soon as I got home, it was like bad. And
yeah.
for like a month after I got home, she had thrown me out into the street to be homeless.
Dang.
Um, and I mean, it was like the second my butt touched the seat of her car when I got picked up at the bus stop in Buffalo, New York. It was just like, you're the biggest piece of trash in the world, the way I was being,
Dang.
her attitude towards me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. I did something pretty stupid and
Yeah,
got in all this trouble. None of this was your fault.
yeah.
But why would you stick with my whole thing? I'll never be able to figure out is why would you stick with somebody through all of that for 20 months, and then you get to the finish line and you're like, never mind, I don't want this. Like,
That's
why wouldn't you
weird.
just walk
Yeah.
away from somebody when it happened? If this is, I don't
Maybe
know.
she
But
kind of
that's how.
liked, yeah, maybe she kind of liked being that mama bird looking out for you while you're having a hard time. But then when it came to actually having a real relationship with you, where there wasn't all the distance and all the stuff going on, it couldn't happen. But yeah, that's a part of your story that I'm also puzzled by too. It's like why would she do
I
that?
mean, we all got our theories,
Yeah,
and I'm sure everybody watching, hearing it already. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I have my theories. Everybody does. But yeah, I was only home for a few weeks, and I'm out in the street, and I never had a chance. I couldn't even get my driver's license from New York State in time to become homeless. Like, I was still waiting for that to come in the mail, and I couldn't even go like look for a job because you need, identity
yeah,
to go get a job and stuff. And so I was doing everything I could to start putting the pieces back together. And in fact, a lot of the stuff I did while I was in that apartment with her set me up for more success down the road. It wasn't like I was sitting around doing nothing,
yeah.
but you know, I've been grinding away at trying to put a life back together since the day I came home. And here I am. I'm in a tiny house, in Houston, Texas. I've got work. I'm
Yeah.
doing work on multiple fronts. I'm setting up multiple streams of income. I'm not making a lot of money right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not making squat. I'm just barely floating from one month to the next. But at the same time, I'm playing the long game, and I'm
Yeah.
setting things up so that somewhere down the road something will happen and I'll be all right.
I want to ask
Um,
about do you feel like you may have had any PTSD or any bad psychological effects from having to go through this whole very traumatic
yeah.
period
Oh
in
yeah.
your life? Yeah.
I go through a lot of periods where I'm just, I have a lot of fear issues to overcome.
Yeah.
I was just saying in a video that I'm about to post on my channel that I'm riding my bike. I ride 20 miles right now on a bicycle each way to go to a bakery and back.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of time out there with, the good Lord to have a conversation while
Yeah.
I'm on that bike ride. And I'll be riding around and I'll be looking, I'll be like, oh, that'd be a good spot to be homeless. I could put a tent back in there and hide and nobody would know I'm there. And that kind, and I'm constantly having to battle this fear.
Yeah.
So, there's fear of going backwards. There's fear that you could end up back in prison if they
Yeah.
decide to throw you back in there for some violation of your probation.
Yeah.
And, I feel like you really got to do something stupid and
Yeah.
just blatantly flaunt, like, don't, most people I see who go back,
Yeah.
they make you take drug tests here and there,
Yep.
like every 3 months or so. There was a guy who I knew who got sent back to prison because he was on federal probation and he failed the drug test 9 times.
Yeah.
After the 9th time, the probation officer was like, all right, this is like I gave you 8 chances. You just failed again for the 9th time. I'm
Yeah.
going to go talk to the judge. We're going to see what's up. And the judge put him back in jail for another 9 months or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to smoke a joint. It's legal in New York State. Where I was in New York State in Jamestown, you can smoke weed in the bar now. Like,
Yeah.
if there's an ashtray on the table, you can smoke a joint. It's perfectly legal now. But I'm like, I'm not going back to federal prison because I wanted to smoke a joint.
Yeah.
I'll hold off until this
Yeah.
blows over and
Yeah. You
all
definitely
that.
seem
So,
like a pretty straight laced guy. Don't drink, don't smoke, anything like that. So I think you're definitely not ever going to go back to that. And I think you're on the solid path. And, I want to also say, like, I don't know if I'd be as strong as you going through all this stuff. It really seems like you haven't let the stuff get to you and should move forward, move forward.
I let it get to me.
Yeah.
It's more like I don't have a choice. I have to get my life back together. I've got 2 kids now. One of my daughter is 29 years old right now. She's a grown up. She's got a career and everything, but I have a son who's 15 years old and I haven't seen him other than like one day in the last 3 years. And so I'm trying to really, what it boils down to is I got to find a place where I can, if he wanted to come down and spend time down here, choose to live here or whatever, I got to be able to provide for him and have a
Yeah.
place for him down here so he can, his mother and I, by the time he was like 9 years old, we pretty much let him decide which parent he wanted to stay with and live with. And, he had a home, he had 2 homes and he
Yeah.
might come to my house for 3 months and then go back home. He was doing remote school.
Yeah.
And even after the COVID thing, they were kind of given a choice at his school if they wanted to stay. He wanted to do cyber school or whatever. So we let him do cyber school, and then he could stay at either. He'd be like, I want to go see my mom. Okay. He might go spend a month at his mom's house. He might come back to my house for a couple months and just that. So now that the distance is so much farther, he's in Pittsburgh, I'm in Houston. I'm trying to get to the point where I can at least let him come down here and spend the summer, or whatever he wants to do,
Yeah, that's
and
probably
just
been
be
tough
there.
on him, not being able to see his dad. And it sounds like you and his mom are cool, so that's good. And
Yeah,
that's probably been tough on you not being able to be in his life with all just this insanity happening to you. So that's yeah, this
that's
stuff
the hardest.
families. Yeah,
That's the hardest thing. I try to put it down mentally and focus on what's in front of me, but that's the hardest part of this whole thing, is not being able to have a relationship with my kids.
yeah,
Uh, and that, but there's so much that I have to do. It's like I'm never bored. I never have, like, there's always I'm always got to do something.
yeah.
And just because I'm scrambling, I'm constantly trying to find a way out of this mess. And so there's never enough time in the day to do everything that needs to be done. So it's kind of like that situation where I don't have to dwell on everything. I go through periods of fear. I go through some of that. I was kind of getting down on myself a week ago, something like that. And it was almost like God came in and gave me a flashback. And he just put me back in the apartment in Jamestown where I was living with my ex right after I got out of prison. And he made me feel what I was feeling then, and just the general vibe of everything. And he was like, all right, now do you know how far you've come? Because you get into that frame of mind where you're like, you start focusing on everything that you haven't done and the things that haven't happened yet and the things that you're behind on. And I need to do this, I need to do that. When's this going to happen? You're looking forward. And sometimes you got to stop and you got to look back and say, look at where I was like 9 months ago, wandering around Jamestown homeless.
Yeah.
Now you're in Houston. You've got multiple streams of income. They're not huge, but they're you were able to get a tiny house to live in,
Yep.
and all your utilities are included except for your internet. And you were able to look. Do you want to go back to where you were 9 months ago, or do you want to keep moving forward? So it may not be at the speed you want it to move,
Yep.
but if you can say to yourself, I'm making improvements every day, life gets a little better. I think that's all we can do, all
I
of
can tell
us.
you,
Whatever struggles, whatever trials you're going through.
most people who get caught in the system and end up going to prison and end up homeless, most people don't get out of it. Most people, they get stuck there, and that those trenches are just too much. They're not able to crawl out of them. So I think for you to be able to get out of those trenches, and that's a rare thing, and I think a huge inspiration. I want to ask you. So, how long were you homeless in Jamestown, New York for? Can you talk about that experience a little bit?
It was from like the middle of May to the middle of September last year,
Okay,
and
so about 6 months or so, maybe a little. Yeah,
it's five, I think.
5 months.
I did a video. I started doing videos the second day. My best friend was like, "You need to document this. Get on YouTube." People, it ended up being the best thing I ever did
Yeah,
because I didn't want to do it. I was like, I ain't got time for this. Why do you keep, what? I just was like arguing with my friend about it. And so the first day I was homeless was hectic. The second day I decided to do it. And I did it for 114 days because every time I put up
yeah,
a new video, I was putting the day number on it. Because I
yeah,
wasn't planning on being homeless for years. I was like, I'm getting out of this mess as soon as I can.
yeah,
The first day I was homeless, I ended up at there's a homeless shelter in Jamestown.
yep,
I pretty much went straight there and talked to them, and they let me in. And so that's where I spent the 5 months living in a homeless shelter. Good and bad. It's not supposed to be comfortable. It's not supposed to be like, you don't
yeah,
want to live there. They don't want to
Yeah.
make it a place where it's so comfortable you can just live there for, however long. But they were good people and they did a lot. They helped me out a lot. They know the ropes. They know how to work the social services systems and all that stuff. So I was living off of that in the homeless shelter for a while. I was looking for a job. I got hired at 2 different jobs, and then on the first day I was let go because I told them what happened
Yep.
before getting hired, and they said that doesn't matter. We think you're a good guy. We want to hire you. And then on the first day, they'd be like, "Well, we were told we can't hire you because your
Yep.
background check."
Yep.
And
HR got
so,
involved, and yeah.
right. And so, that was happening, and it was frustrating. And there aren't that many jobs up there. There aren't many places to live in Jamestown. If you're looking to rent an apartment, there on any given day there's like 5 in the whole
Yeah.
city, and here in Houston there's like 500 on any given day. It's a totally different situation.
Yeah.
um but I've applied to over 600 jobs since I've been
Yeah.
out of prison, and I got hired for $10 an hour at a bakery, and that's the only job application that went through
There you go.
out of
They're cool with you at the
600, which is,
bakery. They're not tripping about your record. They're like, all right, they know you're a hard worker. They know you're a reliable guy.
yeah, we all get along. It's
Yep.
been a good experience. Nobody's ever said one word to me about any of that
Nice.
stuff. And I don't bring it up.
Yeah.
I just do my job. I go in there. We all get along. We're clowns. We joke
Yeah.
around. We laugh, and we have as good of a time as you can.
Yep.
I'm not When I got that job at the bakery, I was 5 miles away living at my friend's house. It was a
Yeah.
10-minute bicycle ride. Now I live 20 miles away, and I go in there 3 times a week or more. And so the one week I rode my bicycle 250 miles going back and forth to
Dang.
this job.
How long does
So
that bike ride take?
about anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, and it boils down to how much I want to lay the hammer down,
Yep.
and what direction the wind's going, what the air temperature is, a bunch of different factors, how many stoplights,
Dang. So
there's a
let's just
lot of
say that's
different,
a 3 hour commute, and that's a lot of cardio.
yeah. And I'm getting in shape. I mean, there's benefits to it, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
The area of Houston that I moved, I kid you not, there's more than 100 businesses within walking distance of where I live right now. So I'm trying to replace my part-time job with a part-time job that's a 5-minute walk instead of an hour and some change bicycle ride.
There you go.
So,
But that,
I'm
but it's enough for you to be able to afford the tiny house and get yourself a place of your own at least, though.
yeah, it's still month to month
Yep.
survival mode. Like I came to the conclusion last week. I'm like, okay, I can now I can make it till the end of April.
There you
I
go.
got April, and
Okay.
I know what my monthly expenses are. I have, the rent, and then I have a bunch of bills that I have to pay monthly because I'm running my own business right now doing, website and digital marketing. I've got I've got 3 projects I'm doing for clients in that front, and I've got 3 or 4 other people that want me to give them quotes, but I'm a little bit behind and I don't want to take on more work, and I don't want to like get into a situation where I'm not delivering what I said I would.
Yeah, and then you're
So
making a
I'm
couple bucks off
taking
your
my
rent
time
too.
with it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to line up the situation so I can work a part-time job that pays my groceries and some of those expenses, and which is what this bakery job is,
Yeah.
and open up more time to do the freelance work because that pays a lot more money. It's just not 100% stable. When you're a freelancer, you're literally working one project to the next. Sometimes you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. And so,
I got you.
you
So
know,
yeah, so right now it's a battle to get the money up, pay the bills, just hold the house down, and it's a long commute. So there's still a grind going on. You're not out of the woods yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky enough to live in Houston where, winter came. We had
Yeah.
snow this winter, but, Jamestown, New York, it's like negative 20 degrees,
Yeah.
and there's 6 feet of snow on the ground. Here in Houston, it'll be the coldest it's been was 20 degrees. I can ride my bike in that if I wear enough layers, and I've got what I need to do that. Um, the weather's been pretty good to me on the bicycle commuting side, but there has been some cold days. But overall, I mean, we're in spring now. It's the mornings now are the coldest mornings are 50 degrees. But typically this week it was 65, 70 every morning and about 85 on my way home. So, if I was still in Jamestown right now, I got weather in front of me. Let's see, Jamestown. Oh, today's 57, so that's pretty good, but it's going to get down. 28 degrees. It's going to be later on this week. So
Yeah, the winters there.
still
Winters there are tough. It's tough down in Jamestown. Real quick, I want to say, hey, what's up, Infinite Zebra? Good to see you in the chat. I'm just taking a peek at the chat here right quick. Yeah, we've been going about an hour, Adam. I think we should probably wrap this up pretty soon. Give a quick recap on Adam for anyone who's coming in late. Made some tweets that weren't the best. The FBI drives a tank into his house. He goes to jail for 20 months. Very unfair sentence, very crazy thing. Homeless, and now tiny house, back on your feet. Amazing comeback, and just being thrown into some real BS, and for you to get through it and to persevere and overcome and just keep moving forward, not getting stuck. Now, not pitying yourself, not getting down on yourself because it's like, this is really unfair. I don't deserve this, but it's the book of Job.
I go through that.
Yeah.
If you watch my channel, there'll be videos where I'm like, this is BS. I don't deserve that. I go through those, and I'm kind of on this circle of, God's put me on this path of you got to learn how to forgive people because there's a lot of people I'm having a hard time, not just people I know personally that did me dirty or whatever, but just the Democrats in general and all the things that they did during the Biden years,
have to forgive the system.
I got fired from a remote job. I worked at a job as a remote software developer and designer for years.
So you're probably making
starting
6
day
figures,
one
living a good life.
work.
Yeah.
And then they came at me and said, if you don't take this shot, we're firing you. And I said, all right, see ya. I mean, I gave him the bird and walked over.
Yeah.
I let them fire me.
Yeah.
And then I went through a nightmare because of that.
Yeah.
And, I was watching people's lives be destroyed by what was going on in the country. And I got mad. And I just let it out one day on Gab.
Yep.
Said a bunch of dumb things. And somebody ratted me out to the FBI. And that's how it all started. And,
and the thing is, other people say wild stuff online. Other people, like you said before, talk about wanting to kill Trump or whatever. They don't go to jail.
I've seen at least 20 people this week on video say they want to kill Donald Trump. And as far as I know, the FBI didn't show up with a tank to bulldoze their house.
So they definitely singled you out and decided we're gonna. There's a lot. We're gonna F this guy's life up. We don't. He's questioning us. You're questioning the status quo. You're questioning the narrative and the way they don't like, and decided, hey, we're gonna ruin this guy's life, basically.
I'm not proud of what I did. I don't want to I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of it, even if nothing ever came of it.
Yeah.
Like, I was ashamed of it later that week. I'm like, man, why did you go and say all these stupid things? Would you want your friends and family to read all this nonsense? Like, this is stupid, Adam. Why did you do that? And that's where I was on Friday evening. I was falling asleep in a chair because I'd had a rough couple of weeks of, out having fun, but I had worn myself out on a few adventures with my son and some traveling. And I was like falling asleep Friday night at like 7 in the evening in a chair. And I said to myself, I'm like, when you get up tomorrow, why don't you just go on Gab and clean it out, get rid of all that crap and just don't do it. Close the account if you have to, because this isn't constructive. You went too far.
Yeah.
You said some really stupid things, some things you don't mean. You're in court, and it's in the court record that I was talking shit.
Yeah.
The judge said it. The prosecutors said it. My lawyer, I said it. I was just talking shit. That's the stenographer had to type that out.
Yeah.
And so the FBI had one story. My lawyer caught the FBI agent who arrested me lying about a few things. I mean, she got it on the record. Everybody in the courtroom was like, when, I mean, that was that blatant. But I'm like I said, I'll never say anything. I say some messed up things from time to time, but I'm not going to go to the extent of like threatening somebody's life or even saying something that could be construed in that way, because, the only statement that I made that could be construed in that way was the one that they offered me a plea deal.
Yeah.
They took 7 posts, charged me with 2 crimes for each post. And then they turned around and offered a plea deal where they would drop 6 of the 7 posts and only charge me for the 1.
Yeah.
And it was the one where I said, if you MFers come to my house, I'll be waiting for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting them to come to my house over a tweet. I was just saying stuff.
Yeah.
We were having a conversation about, I think in fact, that specific post was in response to, there's context.
Yeah.
There was the IRS had put up a job listing for IRS agents, and in big red letters it said, must be willing to use deadly force. And it was being passed around the news media all day, and people were sharing this on social media. And I took a screenshot of it from irs.gov. I went there and saw it for myself. I took a screenshot. I posted the screenshot with the caption, the commentary, if you mother effers show up at my house, I'll be waiting for you and I'll take you all out.
Yeah, and that's talking about the IRS.
In response to an ad that if you're
and that's clearly
late
not a
on
serious
your taxes, we're going to come with guns.
Yeah, that's clearly not
the government had to take. Yeah, the government had to take the post down within 3 hours of posting it because they were getting trolled so bad online about it, and people were like, "What?" It was getting national news attention that day, so they put the kibosh on it. They took it away. But that was the statement that I made, the thing that I said, that was the context. But when they tell you when you're looking at the affidavit from the FBI, they leave that part out. He said this, this, and this, and this, and this, but they're not showing you he said this underneath this. He was talking about this.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was clear they were trying to railroad you, and they were like, let's just try to screw this freaking guy over and punish this guy for questioning things. It's your book of Job, the devil's on the attack trying to freaking, put you through hell. And, I see you're still, still with God, still strong, still have love in your heart. I can see that this didn't break you. I can see you're still stronger than ever.
Yeah, I mean, they can't. Once you go through losing everything, like you're literally out in the street homeless and you got nothing left and everything's gone and you make it, then you're like, okay, what do you got next? What are you going to do now? You can't do anything to make my life worse. So there's almost like a freeing of, like, people will comment on my channel. They'll say something like, you shouldn't talk like that because you're going to ruin your reputation. I'm like, how can I ruin my reputation any more than it is now? Like, done. That job is done. We're like, now I'm free. I can just talk openly about things because reputation gone. Type my name into Google. That's not going away in my lifetime. My great grandchildren will be able to look me up and say, look what my great granddaddy did. 300 pages of Google results. And they'll be like,
100% though. It's like they've already taken everything from you. It's like, you can't take nothing from me. I'm still here. You took everything from me. What are you going to do now?
They can take all the stuff in my everything I own, or everything that I own here in Houston fit in a minivan when I moved from my friend's house to the tiny house here. And I got water filter you see behind me and a couple of other small things. But I mean, if I had to move again, it would take 2 trips with a minivan.
Yeah.
To move everything I own. I got 2 bicycles and a tiny house with some stuff. I mean, I got what I need. I got clothes, I got food, I got a roof over my head, I got, things I can work with. But there isn't much they can do. I mean, I was living in a dream home. I had the life. I was making well over 6 figures. I had an office separate from the house. I lived next to a 30-foot waterfall. There was a 30-foot waterfall in my yard. It wasn't my property, but it was right there. You could open up the window in the living room and listen to the waterfall all day.
Yeah.
Had a garage, I had a big sunroof, had a driveway that was big enough 20 people could show up and park in the driveway and nobody be blocked in. I lived out in Amish country. It was quiet. The only noise from traffic was clomp, 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 clomp as the horse and buggies go by the house. And
so you were living
I was living
the
the
upper
dream.
middle class dream, essentially. Big house,
Right.
big
It was
yard.
a house of cards. It wasn't like I was renting this house. I didn't
I got
own
you.
it. I mean, it was kind of like, but I had come a long way from some earlier struggles, and the career was going really well.
Yeah.
And I had struggled for a long time, and I had finally hit my stride. Or maybe I lived in that house for 6 years, and when I moved out there, everything started to. I think it was because of the tranquility, because of where I was, and it helped with everything mentally. And I hit my stride, and that's when my career started to take off. But I was already in my 40s when I moved there. So, but things were starting to fall into place. And had I been able to keep going for another year or two, I would have been out of debt. I would have had the ability. I was trying to get a I was trying to buy the house I was living in. That was my goal.
Yeah.
There were other things in play, but all these things were there was a future that looked bright.
Yeah.
And then the FBI came and there we go.
Yep.
So
You got hit with everything. Yeah, I'm probably going to wrap this up about now. We've been on here for a long time. We've had a really great chat. Adam, why don't you shout your channel out at Redeeming Light? Check Adam's channel out. Yeah, Adam, if you have any closing thoughts, please give them to us. But if not, I'm probably going to sign us off.
Yeah, that's cool. No, thanks for having me on.
Yep.
And I do have something to share with you when you got a minute, but we can do it later, maybe tomorrow or during the week or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that. I think you'll dig.
Yeah. I'll hit you up. I'll hit you up after this. So much love. God bless. God be with you, Adam. God carry Adam forward, help him overcome. Just keep carrying him forward. Anybody who's struggling, God be with him. God be with everybody who's struggling right now. And much love to all of you. Much love to you, Adam. And I'm gonna close this down, and I will see you all next time.
All right, everybody. Peace out.
Peace.